The city of Lagos never truly slept. Even in the deepest hours of night, the streets pulsed with restless energy. Yellow buses screamed through crowded roads. Street vendors called out beneath glowing traffic lights. Music drifted from packed bars where strangers danced as if tomorrow carried no consequences. Yet high above that endless noise, inside a breathtaking penthouse overlooking Victoria Island, a man stood completely alone. Damian Cole gazed through a wall of glass at the glittering city below. From a distance, Lagos looked beautiful. It looked alive. It looked full of possibilities, but none of those lights could reach the emptiness inside him. Everything around Damian reflected extraordinary success. The marble beneath his feet came from Italy. The chandelier above him cost more than many family homes. Luxury vehicles filled his private garage. Private jets waited whenever he wanted to travel. To the public, Damian represented the perfect dream. He was wealthy, respected, attractive, and powerful. Newspapers celebrated him. Business magazines praised him. Social media admired him. People constantly wished for his life, yet nobody understood the truth. Damian loosened the collar of his expensive black shirt and released a long breath. Soft jazz floated through hidden speakers, but even the beautiful melody could not calm the heaviness pressing against his chest. A gentle knock interrupted the silence. Without turning around, he spoke. "Come in." The door opened slowly. An elderly man entered carrying a tray with fresh coffee. His name was Musa. He had worked with Damian for years. Unlike most employees, Musa never treated him like a celebrity. He spoke honestly. He cared honestly. He understood the man behind the money. Musa placed the tray on a nearby table and studied him carefully. "You skipped meals again today." Damian offered a tired smile. "I was not hungry." Musa folded his arms. "You are thinking about her again." Damian laughed bitterly. "Which one?" The answer itself revealed the problem. During the previous years, many women had entered Damian's life. A famous actress secretly recorded private conversations for publicity. A beauty influencer demanded expensive gifts almost every week. A politician's daughter treated marriage like a business transaction. Each relationship looked beautiful from the outside. Each relationship felt hollow on the inside. Damian turned back toward the window. "Do you know something funny, Musa?" The older man remained quiet. "People think wealth makes life easier. I am not sure they are right." Musa raised an eyebrow. "Why?" Damian stared at the city lights. "Because when someone loves a poor man, at least he knows there is a chance the love is real." Silence settled between them. The sounds of distant traffic floated through the glass. Musa finally spoke. "You still carry wounds that never healed." Damian's jaw tightened. The memory returned immediately. Months earlier, he had almost proposed to a woman named Fiona. He believed she was different. He believed she genuinely cared. Then everything changed in a single night. Returning home unexpectedly, he overheard a conversation she never intended him to hear. Fiona laughed while speaking to a friend on the phone. She openly admitted she did not love him. She spoke about his fortune. She spoke about security. She spoke about comfort. She called him easy to manipulate. Standing outside the bedroom, Damian listened as every word destroyed another piece of his trust. That same night, he ended the relationship. Since then, doubt followed him everywhere. Musa sat down nearby. "One terrible person convinced you that genuine love does not exist." Damian gave a dry smile. Maybe she was not the only one. Musa shook his head. "Real love exists, you just keep searching in the wrong way." Damian looked at him carefully. "Explain." Musa leaned forward. "Nobody sees you first. They see your money first. They see your cars. They see your companies. They see your fame. Then they decide how to treat you." Damian considered the words. "What are you suggesting?" Musa hesitated briefly. "Hide everything." Damian blinked. "What?" "For once, stop being Damian Cole the billionaire. Remove the expensive suits. Leave behind the security teams. Forget the luxury cars. Let people meet you without knowing who you are. Let someone see the man before they see the fortune." The idea sounded ridiculous, yet the more Damian thought about it, the more sense it made. That night, he barely slept. Musa's words echoed endlessly inside his mind. By sunrise, he had reached a decision that would transform his life forever. The following morning, Lagos expected another ordinary day. Inside Damian's mansion, however, something extraordinary was happening. Standing before a massive bathroom mirror, Damian stared at his reflection. For the first time in years, he no longer looked like one of the richest men in Nigeria. His appearance had completely changed. His hair looked rough and uneven. His beard appeared neglected. He wore faded trousers torn at the knees and an oversized shirt stained with dirt. Beside him sat an old travel bag filled with cheap clothing. Even Musa looked shocked by the transformation. "You truly intend to do this?" Damian nodded firmly. "I need answers. What if someone recognizes you?" "They will not." Sadly, he believed that was true. Most people barely noticed poor individuals at all. Before leaving, he removed his luxury watch and placed it inside a drawer. Then he slipped into worn sandals. Musa watched quietly. "You can still change your mind." Damian shook his head. "If I keep living behind wealth, I will never know who actually cares about me." Moments later, he stepped outside without bodyguards, without drivers, and without power. For the first time in years, he entered the city alone. The humid air struck his face as he walked through crowded streets. Nobody recognized him, nobody greeted him, nobody cared. At first, the experience felt strange, then it became painful. By afternoon, hunger twisted inside his stomach. He entered a small restaurant hoping to buy food. Before he could speak, the owner pointed toward the door. "Get out." Damian frowned. "I only want something to eat. We do not serve beggars here." Several customers laughed quietly. Embarrassment burned through him. Without another word, he left. Outside, he sat beneath a damaged bus shelter and stared at the road. A group of teenagers passed nearby. One tossed a coin at his feet. "Buy soap." The boys erupted with laughter. Damian stared at the coin. Just hours earlier, people would have competed for his attention. Now strangers treated him like he was invisible. As evening arrived, heavy rain crashed over the city. People rushed toward shelter. Damian squeezed beneath a leaking roof alongside several homeless men. The smell of damp clothing filled the air. An older man nearby coughed violently while wrapping himself in torn blankets. Damian watched quietly. His chest tightened. For years he had donated money to charities, yet he had never truly understood what poverty felt like. Now he understood. Sleep came slowly that night. Rainwater dripped nearby. Mosquitoes buzzed endlessly. Damian stared into the darkness, asking himself difficult questions. Was this how society treated struggling people every day? Were they dismissed so easily? Days became weeks. Rejection followed him everywhere. Women ignored him, shop owners chased him away, children mocked him openly. Some people insulted him simply because of how he looked, yet he refused to quit. Deep inside, hope remained alive. Hope that somewhere in the city, someone would see beyond appearances. Hope that somebody would value character more than money. Then one hot afternoon, exhausted and hungry after hours of wandering, Damian stopped beside a small roadside food stall. The aroma of rice and rich stew filled the air. His stomach growled immediately. Behind the stall stood a young woman, helping her mother serve customers. Sweat glistened on her forehead, yet kindness shined in her eyes. Damian hesitated. Something about her felt different. He slowly stepped forward, unaware that a single decision was about to change his entire future. As the afternoon sun blazed above Lagos and the crowded street roared with life, the young woman finally looked up and their eyes met for the very first time. The afternoon heat settled heavily over Lagos. Traffic roared through crowded streets. Vendors shouted over one another. Motorcycles squeezed through impossible gaps between vehicles. Amid the noise and movement stood a modest roadside food stall covered by a faded blue umbrella. The smell of fried plantains, spicy stew, and freshly cooked rice drifted through the air, drawing hungry workers from every direction. Behind the stall, Clara Benson moved quickly between customers. Sweat glistened along her forehead, but her smile never faded. She balanced plates, poured drinks, and greeted each customer with warmth. Life had never been easy for Clara, yet she carried herself with quiet strength. Beside her stood her mother, Grace Benson. Everyone in the neighborhood called her Mama Grace. Years earlier, after the death of Clara's father, their family had been pushed into a daily battle for survival. Medical bills had consumed their savings, rent payments became constant worries, dreams were replaced by responsibilities. Still, Mama Grace refused to surrender. Every morning before sunrise, she prepared food. Every evening, she counted every coin carefully. She believed dignity mattered even during hardship. Clara shared that belief. She worked beside her mother every day without complaint. Yet hidden deep inside her heart lived an old dream. Before tragedy entered their lives, she wanted to become a nurse. She imagined helping people. She imagined wearing a clean uniform and working inside a hospital. But poverty changed everything. Education became impossible. Survival came first. Clara accepted the sacrifice, though part of her still wondered what might have been. Not everyone in the family accepted hardship so calmly. Clara's younger sister, Vanessa, viewed poverty as a personal enemy. She hated every reminder of their struggles. While arranging bottled drinks inside a cooler, Vanessa watched wealthy customers drive past in luxury vehicles. Frustration filled her eyes. "I refuse to spend my entire life here." Mama Grace glanced toward her. "Focus on your work." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "I am focused on escaping this life." Clara shook her head gently. "Not everything revolves around money." Vanessa laughed. "That is exactly what poor people say." Before Clara could answer, another customer approached the stall. Business continued. Yet Clara noticed her sister's bitterness growing stronger every month. The world had made Vanessa angry. Sometimes Clara worried about what that anger might eventually become. Then a quiet voice interrupted her thoughts. "Excuse me." The word sounded hesitant, weak. Clara immediately looked up. Standing several feet away was a man wearing torn clothes and worn sandals. His beard looked overgrown. An old travel bag hung from one shoulder. Dust covered his clothing. Most people would have looked away instantly. Clara did not. She noticed something unusual in his eyes: sadness, exhaustion, loneliness. It was Damian, though nobody recognized him. Hunger twisted painfully inside his stomach. During recent days, he had eaten very little. Most businesses refused to serve him. Most strangers ignored him completely. Even approaching this stall felt difficult. "Can I have something to eat?" he asked quietly. Vanessa reacted immediately. "We are not feeding beggars." Damian lowered his gaze. "I am hungry." Vanessa crossed her arms. "Then find work." Mama Grace frowned. "Vanessa," but her daughter continued, "hardworking people are tired of supporting lazy people. Go somewhere else." Several customers glanced toward Damian. Some looked uncomfortable, others looked amused. Embarrassment spread through his chest. He nodded slowly and turned to leave. Then Clara spoke. "Wait." Damian stopped. Clara studied him carefully. The sadness in his eyes touched her heart. Without hesitation, she grabbed a clean plate and began serving rice, beans, and stew. Vanessa stared in disbelief. "What are you doing?" "He needs food. Food costs money." Clara ignored the complaint and handed the plate toward Damian. Here, for a moment, he simply stared. During weeks of rejection, nobody had offered genuine kindness. Nobody had looked at him with compassion. Yet this stranger helped without hesitation. "You do not have to pay," Clara added softly. Something shifted inside Damian. He looked at her properly for the first time. Her beauty was simple and natural. There was no performance, no calculation, no hidden agenda. Only kindness. "Thank you," he whispered. Clara smiled warmly. "You are welcome." Damian sat on a nearby wooden bench and began eating slowly. Every bite tasted better than meals served inside expensive restaurants. Not because the food was luxurious, because it was given with sincerity. Meanwhile, Vanessa continued glaring. "People will take advantage of you." Clara shrugged. "If someone is hungry, they deserve help. That attitude is why we remain poor." Damian listened quietly while eating. The contrast between the sisters fascinated him. One carried resentment, the other carried compassion. After finishing his meal, he stood. "Thank you again." Clara nodded. "What is your name?" For a brief second, Damian almost revealed the truth. Instead, he chose the false identity he had been using since beginning his experiment. "Daniel." "I am Clara." Their eyes met briefly. Something unspoken passed between them. Then another customer arrived, forcing Clara back to work. Damian quietly walked away. Yet for the first time in weeks, his heart felt lighter. That evening, Clara found herself thinking about the stranger. There was something unusual about him. His speech sounded educated, his manners seemed refined. Nothing about him matched the assumptions people usually made. While packing leftover food beside her mother, she replayed the conversation repeatedly. Vanessa interrupted her thoughts. "I cannot believe you wasted food on that man." Mama Grace sighed. "Enough, Vanessa. I am serious. Food is expensive." Clara remained quiet. Deep down, she knew she would help him again if necessary. Life had been cruel to her family, but she refused to let hardship destroy her humanity. Later that night, heavy rain poured across Lagos. Damian sat beneath an abandoned shop roof, clutching his old travel bag. Water dripped from the ceiling. Mosquitoes filled the air. Nearby, other homeless men slept on flattened cardboard, yet Damian barely noticed the discomfort. His thoughts remained fixed on Clara. During years of wealth, he had met countless glamorous women. Many demanded gifts before showing affection, many measured people by status and influence. Clara was different. She gave food to a stranger she believed had nothing. The memory would not leave him. Maybe Musa was right. Maybe genuine kindness still existed. Maybe genuine love still existed too. The next afternoon, Damian returned to the stall. Clara spotted him immediately. "You came back." Damian smiled awkwardly. "I hope that is okay." "Of course." Vanessa groaned loudly. "Wonderful, the beggar returns." Clara ignored her completely. "Have you eaten today?" "Not yet." Without hesitation, she prepared another plate. Damian watched carefully. "Why are you so kind to me?" Clara paused before answering. "Because life is already difficult enough." The simple words struck him deeply. Nobody had spoken to him that way in years. Most people saw wealth. Most people saw opportunity. Clara saw humanity. As customers moved around them and traffic thundered through the street, Damian realized something unexpected. He was no longer conducting an experiment. He was becoming genuinely interested in the woman standing before him. And while Clara handed another meal to a customer nearby, she noticed herself smiling whenever Daniel appeared. Neither understood it yet. Neither recognized the danger. But something powerful had already begun growing between them. As the sun dipped lower across the Lagos skyline, a luxury black vehicle slowly rolled past the food stall. Damian barely noticed it. Clara never looked at it. Yet inside that vehicle sat a business journalist holding a newspaper with Damian Cole's photograph printed across the front page. The car continued down the road. The newspaper remained unseen. And fate quietly moved one step closer to a revelation that would eventually change everything. Days slowly turned into weeks. What began as occasional conversations became part of a daily routine neither Clara nor Damian expected. Every afternoon, Damian found himself walking toward the roadside stall with growing anticipation. Every afternoon, Clara caught herself glancing toward the street, searching for the familiar figure carrying an old travel bag. Neither questioned the habit, neither admitted how much they enjoyed seeing the other. Yet something meaningful was quietly taking root. The food stall remained busy almost every day. Workers crowded around plastic tables, drivers stopped for quick meals, street vendors grabbed food before returning to business. Through it all, Clara moved with her usual warmth and patience. One especially hot afternoon, she balanced several plates while calling out orders. Sweat dampened her apron. Exhaustion touched her face. Yet when she spotted Damian approaching through the crowd, an unexpected smile appeared instantly. "You are late today." Damian stopped. Surprise crossed his face. "You noticed?" Clara immediately looked away. "I notice everyone." The answer sounded casual, but both of them knew it was not entirely true. Nearby, Vanessa rolled her eyes dramatically. "Wonderful. Now we are tracking his schedule." Damian laughed softly. Clara tried not to smile. The simple exchange brightened both of their moods more than either wanted to admit. Over time, Clara noticed strange things about Damian. He never begged for money. He never complained about his circumstances. His speech sounded educated. His manners felt refined. Sometimes he used words that seemed completely out of place for someone supposedly living on the streets. The contradictions fascinated her. "Where are you from?" Clara asked one afternoon. Damian hesitated. He had become skilled at avoiding dangerous questions. Different places. Vanessa snorted loudly. That answer explains absolutely nothing. Damian simply smiled and continued eating. Clara noticed his reluctance. Though curious, she respected it. Everyone carried private wounds. Some stories took time to tell. That evening, after closing the stall, Clara and her mother packed leftover food into containers. Dark clouds gathered above Lagos. Rain threatened from the horizon. Mama Grace stretched her aching back. "We sold enough today." Clara nodded. "Thank goodness." Vanessa slammed a cooler lid shut. "Enough to survive, not enough to live." Mama Grace sighed heavily. "Vanessa, what?" Vanessa snapped. "I am tired of pretending this life is acceptable." Clara watched her sister carefully. She understood the frustration. They all felt it. But unlike Vanessa, she refused to let bitterness control her heart. "Not everything is measured by money." Vanessa laughed. "That explains why we have so little of it." Later that night, Damian sat beneath a pedestrian bridge, watching headlights streak through the darkness. Around him, homeless men slept on cardboard and broken mattresses. Yet his thoughts remained far away. He thought about Clara's smile. He thought about her kindness. He thought about how she always treated him with respect when almost nobody else did. Something uncomfortable stirred inside him. Guilt. Every day the lie grew heavier. He had started this experiment searching for answers. Now he was hiding the truth from the one person who seemed genuinely different. The realization troubled him deeply. The following week, Lagos experienced one of its worst storms. Dark clouds swallowed the sky, rain flooded roads, and forced businesses to close early. Most street vendors packed up and left. Clara and Mama Grace stayed longer than usual. Rent was due. Every sale mattered. Rainwater dripped steadily from the umbrella covering the stall. Business was terrible. Mama Grace glanced toward the sky. "We should leave soon." Then Clara noticed someone approaching through the rain. Daniel. Damian looked exhausted. Water soaked his clothing. Mud covered his sandals. Even from a distance, Clara could see he was shivering. Her heart tightened instantly. "Why are you outside in this weather?" Damian managed a weak smile. "I have survived worse." Vanessa folded her arms. Maybe this storm will finally convince him to find a job. "Vanessa." Mama Grace's warning came sharper this time. Clara ignored the comment entirely. "You are freezing." "I am fine." He clearly was not. Without hesitation, Clara grabbed a towel from behind the counter and handed it to him. "Dry yourself." Damian stared at her. Nobody had worried about whether he was cold in a very long time. Slowly, he accepted the towel. "Thank you." Their eyes met. Rain crashed around them. Traffic splashed through flooded streets. Yet for a brief moment, the world seemed strangely quiet. Later that evening, the storm worsened. Clara carried containers home beneath a small umbrella. As she passed an abandoned building, she noticed a familiar figure curled beneath a leaking roof. It was Damian. Rainwater splashed dangerously close to where he slept. Clara stopped immediately. Her chest ached. Nobody deserved conditions like these. "Daniel." Damian opened his eyes slowly. "Clara, what are you doing here? You cannot sleep like this." He shrugged lightly. "I will survive." Clara looked around helplessly. Most shelters were already overcrowded. "You will get sick." Damian stared at her quietly. There it was again. Not pity, not obligation, genuine concern. The feeling struck him harder than he expected. "You do not need to worry about me." "But I do." The words escaped before Clara could stop them. Both froze. Rain continued falling heavily around them. For several seconds, neither spoke. Finally, Clara cleared her throat. "Here," she handed him a small food container. "I saved some rice." Damian looked stunned. "You brought me food?" Clara nodded shyly. "I thought you might be hungry." Emotion tightened his throat. Throughout years of wealth, expensive gifts had surrounded him constantly. Yet this simple act meant more than any luxury he had ever received. "You are too kind. My father used to say kindness costs nothing." Her voice softened at the mention of him. Damian noticed immediately. "What happened to your father?" Clara looked away briefly. "He passed away." "I am sorry." She smiled sadly. Since then it has been me, my mother, and Vanessa. We do our best. Damian listened carefully. You wanted more than this life. Clara looked surprised. How did you know? You seem like someone who sacrificed a dream. Silence settled between them. Finally, she nodded. I wanted to become a nurse. Damian felt a sharp ache in his chest. You would have been wonderful. Clara laughed softly. Life does not always give people what they deserve. The words stayed with him long after she left. Sitting beneath that leaking roof, eating food she had saved specifically for him, Damian faced a truth he could no longer deny. He was falling in love, not with an image, not with an idea, with Clara Benson. The realization both thrilled and terrified him. The next afternoon he returned to the stall again. Clara greeted him with the same warm smile. Somehow it felt brighter than before. Yet someone else was watching everything unfold. Vanessa. She had noticed the growing connection between them. She saw the smiles. She saw the conversations. She saw how Clara defended him whenever others mocked him. And she hated it. As customers drifted away and business slowed, Vanessa finally confronted her sister. What exactly do you see in him? Clara frowned. What do you mean? He is homeless. Clara placed down a serving spoon. He is kind. Kind does not pay rent. Kind does not buy houses. Kind does not change lives. Clara looked directly at her sister. Maybe not, but money is not everything. Vanessa stared at her as though she had lost her mind. Across the stall, Damian listened quietly. Clara's defense touched him more than she could ever understand. Yet at the same time, guilt pressed harder against his heart. Every kind word she offered was built upon a lie he still refused to reveal. As evening settled over Lagos and lights flickered on throughout the neighborhood, Damian watched Clara laugh at something Mama Grace said. The sight filled him with warmth. It also filled him with fear, because for the first time since beginning his experiment, he realized he had something precious to lose. And somewhere beyond the crowded streets, hidden inside a drawer in his empty penthouse, a luxury watch engraved with his real name waited silently for the day his secret would finally catch up with him. Love arrived quietly between Clara Benson and Damian Cole. It grew through ordinary conversations. It grew through shared meals. It grew through small moments most people would never notice. A smile across a crowded stall, a concern spoken softly during difficult weather, a conversation stretching a few minutes longer than necessary. Neither of them planned for it. Yet every day, their connection deepened. Unfortunately, someone else noticed the change as well. Vanessa. And she was becoming increasingly frustrated. One busy morning, the roads of Lagos overflowed with impatient commuters. The smell of fried bread and hot tea drifted through the air. Customers lined up at the food stall while Clara arranged plates behind the counter. Despite the rush, she seemed unusually cheerful. Mama Grace noticed immediately. You look happy today. Clara smiled without thinking. Do I? Very much. Before Mama Grace could continue, Vanessa interrupted. That is because her favorite homeless man will show up soon. Clara frowned instantly. Vanessa? What? I am simply telling the truth. Mama Grace sighed heavily. Let it go. But Vanessa refused. She turned toward Clara. Seriously, what do you even see in him? Clara continued arranging plates. He is a good person. Vanessa laughed loudly. Good person, wonderful. Maybe kindness can magically pay our rent next month. Clara stopped working and looked directly at her sister. Not everything is about money. Vanessa shook her head in disbelief. That is exactly why you will struggle forever. The conversation ended when customers demanded attention, yet the tension lingered. Across the city, Damian unknowingly walked toward the stall, carrying thoughts that grew more complicated every day. When he finally appeared, Clara noticed him immediately. Her face brightened before she could stop herself. Damian saw the reaction and felt warmth spread through his chest. It amazed him how much her smile now mattered. You came. Damian smiled. I always do. Vanessa pretended to gag dramatically. Both ignored her. Clara served him rice and stew while customers moved around them. Nearby, two businessmen glanced toward Damian and whispered something to each other. Moments later, quiet laughter followed. Damian heard every word. Imagine falling for someone like him. The comment stung, not because of pride, not because of status, because he knew Clara would be judged alongside him. Clara noticed his expression immediately. Do not listen to them. Damian looked up. How do you stay so positive? Clara shrugged gently. My father always said cruel people carry their own punishment. Vanessa interrupted from across the stall. Your father clearly forgot to teach financial planning. Clara sighed heavily. Damian could not help smiling. Somehow even Vanessa's constant criticism felt less painful when Clara stood beside him. Later that evening, after business slowed, Clara and Damian walked together along a quiet stretch of road. The sky glowed orange as sunset painted the city. Traffic continued flowing nearby, but the noise felt distant. Clara finally spoke. Vanessa was not always like this. Damian glanced toward her. What changed? Life. Clara looked down briefly. After my father died, everything became harder. I think she became angry at being poor. Damian listened carefully. And you? Clara smiled sadly. I do not enjoy poverty either, but I refuse to let it turn me into someone cruel. The answer struck him deeply. It explained everything he admired about her. Life had tested Clara repeatedly, yet somehow she remained kind. Across the street, hidden among passing pedestrians, Vanessa watched them together. Irritation burned inside her. She could not understand why Clara kept choosing someone who appeared to have nothing. Wealthy men noticed her sister constantly. Better opportunities existed everywhere. At least that was how Vanessa saw the world. During the following days, her frustration grew stronger. She began openly trying to separate them. Whenever Damian arrived, she found ways to embarrass him. She served other customers first. She made jokes at his expense. She complained loudly about homeless people whenever he sat nearby. Yet Damian endured everything quietly. Clara was worth the discomfort. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. The stall was crowded. Workers filled nearly every table. The air smelled of stew and fried plantains. Damian arrived exhausted after walking beneath the hot sun for hours. He sat quietly on a wooden bench waiting for food. Vanessa carried a bucket of dirty water toward the back of the stall. As she passed him, the bucket suddenly tipped. Muddy water splashed across Damian's clothes. Customers burst into laughter. Even traffic noise seemed to fade beneath the humiliation. For a brief moment, the billionaire hidden beneath the disguise nearly exploded with anger. Years of authority and power screamed inside him. Yet before he could react, another voice cut through the crowd. Vanessa. Clara rarely raised her voice. This time, everyone heard the fury. The stall fell silent. Clara rushed toward Damian. Why would you do that? Vanessa folded her arms. It was an accident. No, it was not. Mama Grace stepped forward. Vanessa, apologize. What? Over him. Clara grabbed a clean towel and began wiping mud from Damian's shirt. I am sorry. Her voice trembled with frustration. Damian looked at her quietly. The concern in her eyes touched him deeply. It is okay. No, it is not. Vanessa rolled her eyes. You are acting like he is some prince. The irony almost made Damian laugh. If only she knew. Clara turned toward her sister. You need to stop this. Vanessa crossed her arms. Why are you defending him? Clara's answer came instantly. Because he is human. Silence crashed over the entire stall. Customers stared. Even Vanessa looked stunned. Clara's breathing quickened. I am tired of watching people treat others like they have no value simply because they are poor. Vanessa recovered quickly. Then her eyes narrowed. Wait. She looked from Clara to Damian. Oh my God, Clara froze. Vanessa laughed sharply. You have feelings for him. Clara said nothing. Her silence revealed everything. Vanessa's eyes widened. You actually love him. The words hung heavily in the air. Clara looked away. For weeks she had tried avoiding that truth, yet now it stood exposed before everyone. Every smile from Damian mattered. Every absence worried her. Every insult aimed at him hurt her. Somewhere along the way, she had fallen in love. That night, Clara sat alone on the rooftop of their apartment building. Warm wind moved gently through the darkness. City lights sparkled in every direction. The sounds of Lagos drifted upward from distant streets. She stared toward the horizon, lost in thought. Then footsteps approached behind her. "Damian, you okay?" Clara nodded slowly. "Vanessa is right." Damian frowned. "About what?" "You deserve someone better than me." The words surprised him completely. "What?" Clara looked down at her hands. "You should not waste your life around someone struggling like this." For one dangerous second, Damian almost revealed everything. He almost told her about the mansion, the companies, the private jets, the fortune. Fear stopped him. Instead, he sat beside her. "You know what I think?" Clara glanced toward him. "What?" "I think you are the best person I have ever met." Her heart skipped. The sincerity in his voice felt impossible to ignore. "You barely know me." Damian smiled softly. "I know enough." Silence settled between them. The city glowed below. The night wrapped around them like a blanket. Slowly, Damian reached for her hand. Clara felt warmth rush through her body as their fingers touched. Neither pulled away. The moment felt natural, peaceful, honest. Damian looked into her eyes. The feelings he had been fighting for weeks finally became impossible to contain. "Clara." She looked at him nervously. "I love you." Time seemed to stop. Clara's heart pounded wildly. No expensive gift had ever moved her the way those three simple words did. There was no performance in his voice, no manipulation, only truth. Tears gathered in her eyes, because deep inside she loved him too. Neither noticed the shadow standing near the rooftop doorway. Vanessa had come looking for her sister. She heard everything. And as she quietly stepped back into the darkness, a new idea began forming inside her mind. One she believed could save Clara from making the biggest mistake of her life. The confession changed everything. After weeks of growing feelings, the truth finally existed between Clara and Damian. Neither needed to pretend anymore. Neither needed to hide what was already obvious. They loved each other. Yet while their hearts moved closer together, danger quietly approached from another direction. Vanessa could not accept what she had witnessed on the rooftop. Throughout the entire night, she replayed the scene repeatedly. Clara holding hands with a homeless man. Clara looking at him with genuine affection. Clara choosing love over security. To Vanessa, it seemed completely irrational. The following morning, she sat beside the apartment window staring at the crowded street below. People hurried toward jobs. Vendors prepared stalls. Life continued normally. But inside Vanessa's mind, a storm was building. She loved her sister, at least she believed she did, and because of that love, she convinced herself she needed to intervene. Clara entered the kitchen carrying laundry. Vanessa looked up immediately. "We need to talk." Clara already knew where the conversation was heading. "I am not changing my mind." Vanessa folded her arms. "Then you are making a mistake." Clara placed the laundry basket down. "Why?" "Because love does not pay bills. Love does not buy medicine. Love does not create opportunities." Clara sighed heavily. "We have had this conversation already." Vanessa stood. "Then let us have it again." Clara remained calm. "Daniel is a good man. Good men can still be poor." Clara shook her head. "Why are you so obsessed with money?" Vanessa laughed bitterly. "Because I know what happens without it." Their mother entered moments later and instantly sensed tension. What happened now? Neither daughter answered immediately. Finally, Vanessa pointed toward Clara. "She is throwing away her future." Mama Grace looked tired. Maybe the future belongs to her. Vanessa stormed out before anyone could respond. The argument ended, but the conflict remained alive. Later that afternoon, Damian arrived at the food stall, carrying mixed emotions. For the first time since beginning his experiment, he felt truly happy. Clara's love seemed genuine. Her kindness remained unchanged. Every fear that once controlled him appeared smaller. Yet another fear was growing rapidly. How much longer could he continue hiding the truth? He sat on the familiar wooden bench. Clara handed him a plate with a smile. "You look worried." Damian hesitated. "Just thinking." "About what?" The answer sat painfully close to the surface. Instead, he offered a safer response. "Life." Clara laughed softly. "That covers a lot." Their conversation continued naturally, but guilt followed him throughout every word. He loved Clara deeply, yet every day he delayed the truth, the eventual revelation became more dangerous. Across the stall, Vanessa watched them carefully. Her frustration reached a breaking point. By evening, she had formed a plan. The next day, while Clara helped customers, Vanessa quietly approached Damian. Her expression carried none of the usual sarcasm. That alone made him suspicious. "We need to talk." Damian looked surprised. "About what?" "Somewhere private." Against his better judgment, he agreed. Several minutes later, they stood near an abandoned building, a short distance from the food stall. Vanessa crossed her arms. "I am going to be direct." Damian nodded. "Good, stay away from my sister." He stared at her calmly. "Why?" "Because she deserves better." Damian expected the answer. Better than what? Better than this. Vanessa gestured toward his clothing, toward his appearance, toward the life she assumed he lived. "You cannot give her anything." Damian remained silent. Vanessa continued. "Clara dreams bigger than this neighborhood, bigger than this struggle, bigger than poverty. You will only drag her down." For a brief moment, anger stirred inside him, not because of the insult, because Vanessa truly believed wealth defined human value. Yet before he could respond, she delivered another blow. "If you care about her, leave." Damian looked directly into her eyes. "And if she does not want me to leave?" Vanessa hesitated. The question clearly bothered her. Eventually she answered, "Then she is being foolish." The conversation ended shortly afterward, but the damage lingered. Damian walked away, carrying a heavy heart. Part of him understood Vanessa's concerns. She wanted security for her sister. Many families would feel the same, yet another part recognized something darker. Vanessa measured people almost entirely through financial worth. It was exactly the mindset Damian had spent years trying to escape. That evening, Clara immediately sensed something was wrong. "You seem distant." Damian forced a smile. "Just tired." She did not believe him, not for a second. Over the next several days, his mood continued changing. He laughed less. He spoke less. Sometimes he appeared lost in thought. Clara worried constantly. Finally, one evening, as they walked beside the waterfront, she stopped. "Tell me the truth." Damian looked toward her. "About what?" "Something is bothering you." The concern in her voice nearly broke him. He wanted to tell her everything. Every secret, every lie, every hidden truth. Instead, fear tightened around his heart. What if she hated him for deceiving her? What if she believed their entire relationship was built on manipulation? The possibility terrified him. Clara stepped closer. "You can tell me anything." Damian looked into her eyes. The honesty there felt almost painful. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "Not yet." Clara's disappointment was subtle but visible. She nodded slowly. "Okay." The conversation moved on, yet for the first time, a small crack appeared between them. Meanwhile, Vanessa pursued another strategy. Through a friend, she learned about a wealthy businessman named Preston Hayes. Preston owned several successful companies. He drove expensive cars. He attended exclusive events. Most importantly, he had recently expressed interest in meeting Clara. To Vanessa, the situation seemed perfect. She arranged everything without asking permission. Several days later, Preston arrived at the food stall wearing a tailored suit and an expensive watch. Customers immediately noticed him. His luxury vehicle parked nearby attracted attention throughout the neighborhood. Vanessa greeted him enthusiastically. Clara looked confused. "What is happening?" Vanessa smiled brightly. "Someone wants to meet you." Preston extended his hand confidently. "It is a pleasure." Clara stared in surprise. Before she could answer, Damian arrived. The timing could not have been worse. He stopped several feet away and watched the interaction unfold. Preston smiled warmly at Clara. "Vanessa tells me wonderful things about you." Clara glanced toward her sister. Vanessa avoided eye contact. Realization spread quickly across Clara's face. "You arranged this?" Vanessa smiled. "You deserve opportunities." Not everyone appreciated the scene. Damian stood frozen. Jealousy twisted through his chest. For years he had never worried about competing with another man. Now, disguised as someone with nothing, he felt completely powerless. Preston represented everything society respected: wealth, status, influence, everything Damian actually possessed but could not reveal. Clara finally found her voice. "Vanessa, this is inappropriate." Preston appeared confused. "I did not realize." Clara interrupted gently. "I am already seeing someone." Preston followed her gaze. His eyes landed on Damian. Silence followed. The contrast between the two men could not have been greater. One appeared successful, the other appeared homeless. Preston looked genuinely stunned. Vanessa looked horrified. Clara looked determined. Yes, him. She stepped beside Damian and took his hand, publicly, without hesitation, without embarrassment, without shame. Customers watched the moment unfold. Some whispered, some stared, but Clara never released his hand. For Damian, the gesture felt overwhelming. She had chosen him in front of everyone, chosen him over wealth, chosen him over status, chosen him over appearances. Preston nodded respectfully. "Then I wish you both happiness." Moments later, he left. Vanessa could barely contain her frustration. "Are you serious?" Clara faced her sister, completely. Their argument continued long after customers departed. Yet that night, something important had become undeniable. Clara's feelings were real. No fortune could tempt her away. No wealthy stranger could replace Damian. Ironically, the very test Damian began months earlier seemed to have finally delivered its answer. But fate was not finished testing them. As darkness settled across Lagos, a luxury sedan pulled into the underground parking garage beneath Damian's empty penthouse. An elderly man stepped out carrying a thick folder. It was Musa. Inside that folder sat documents requiring Damian's immediate signature. Contracts worth millions, business decisions that could no longer wait. And for the first time since beginning his experiment, the hidden world he left behind was moving rapidly toward him. The answer Damian had searched for was finally clear. Clara loved him without knowing who he really was. She had chosen him publicly. She had defended him repeatedly. She had rejected wealth when it stood directly before her. Everything he once doubted now seemed undeniable. Yet instead of bringing peace, the truth created a new problem. His secret was becoming impossible to maintain. The following morning began like any other. Traffic filled the streets. Vendors prepared their stalls. Customers gathered around Mama Grace's food stand. Clara worked beside her mother while Vanessa remained unusually quiet. The failed introduction to Preston still embarrassed her. For the first time, she realized Clara's feelings for Damian ran deeper than she imagined. Unfortunately, that realization did not change her opinion. If anything, it strengthened her determination. Across the city, Musa stood inside Damian's penthouse holding a thick folder of urgent business documents. The luxurious apartment looked exactly as Damian had left it. Expensive furniture remained untouched. City views stretched endlessly beyond the glass walls. Yet the owner was nowhere to be found. Musa sighed heavily. The situation could not continue forever. Several companies needed decisions. Investors demanded meetings. Board members were growing restless. Damian had vanished from public life for far longer than anyone expected. Reaching into his pocket, Musa pulled out a phone. It was time to find him. Hours later, Damian sat beside Clara beneath a large tree near the waterfront. The afternoon breeze carried the scent of the ocean. Nearby, children played soccer on a dusty field. For a few precious moments, life felt simple. Then Damian's phone vibrated. His heart nearly stopped. Very few people possessed that number. He immediately recognized the caller. Musa. Clara noticed the sudden tension. "Everything okay?" Damian forced a smile. "Just an old friend." He stepped away before answering. Musa wasted no time. "Where are you?" Damian sighed. "Still in Lagos. That is not helpful." Damian looked around carefully. What happened? Everything happened. Contracts need approval. Executives need meetings. Investors want explanations. Damian closed his eyes briefly. "I need more time." Musa's patience finally cracked. More time for what? "She already loves you." Damian froze. The words hit directly at the truth he had been avoiding. Musa continued, "You found your answer. Now tell her who you are." Damian looked toward Clara. She sat beneath the tree watching children laugh nearby. The sight made his chest ache. What if everything changes? Musa answered immediately. Then it was never real. The call ended shortly afterward, yet the conversation stayed with Damian throughout the day. Deep down, he knew Musa was right. Every delay only increased the eventual damage. Meanwhile, Vanessa pursued another plan. If Clara refused to leave Damian willingly, perhaps she could expose him differently. She began asking questions around the neighborhood. Where did he sleep? Where did he come from? Did anyone know his history? The answers frustrated her. Nobody knew much about him. He seemed to appear from nowhere. The mystery only increased her suspicion. Something about Damian never fully made sense. Several evenings later, heavy rain returned to Lagos. Business slowed considerably. Most customers hurried home. Clara and Damian remained behind, helping Mama Grace clean up. The weather created an unexpected opportunity. For the first time, Mama Grace found herself alone with Damian. She studied him carefully while drying dishes. "You love my daughter." Damian looked surprised. Yes. It was not a difficult answer. Mama Grace nodded slowly. "I thought so." Silence followed briefly. Then she asked the question he feared most. "What are your intentions?" Damian's throat tightened. He loved Clara deeply. He wanted a future with her. Yet every possible answer felt incomplete because it lacked the truth. "I want to make her happy." Mama Grace smiled gently. "Good answer, but happiness requires honesty too." The words struck harder than she intended. Damian felt exposed, as though she somehow sensed the secret hiding beneath everything. That night, he barely slept. The abandoned building that once felt temporary now seemed unbearable. Rain dripped steadily through cracks above him. Other homeless men snored nearby. Damian stared into the darkness, wrestling with his conscience. He remembered every conversation with Clara, every smile, every moment she defended him, every sacrifice she made for others. She deserved honesty. Yet fear remained powerful. What if she viewed his deception as betrayal? What if she never forgave him? Across the city, Clara faced her own struggle. Sitting beside her bedroom window, she thought about Damian constantly. Something felt wrong. The distance growing inside him worried her. She sensed secrets he refused to share. Yet her trust remained strong. Whatever burden he carried, she believed there must be a reason. The next afternoon brought unexpected excitement to the neighborhood. A local community center announced a fundraising event. Residents gathered to support struggling families. Food vendors donated meals. Volunteers organized activities. Children filled the area with laughter and energy. Clara immediately volunteered. So did Mama Grace. Even Damian offered to help. Vanessa looked amused. Doing charity while homeless is certainly unique. Clara shot her sister a warning glance. During the event, Damian worked quietly behind the scenes. He carried supplies, arranged tables, assisted elderly guests. Nobody paid much attention to him. Yet one person did, a young businessman named Trevor Reed. Trevor attended the event as a sponsor. As he moved through the crowd, he occasionally glanced toward Damian. Something about the man's face felt familiar. Very familiar. At first, Trevor dismissed the feeling. Then he looked again. His eyes widened. No, it could not be. Trevor had attended multiple corporate conferences with Damian Cole. They had shared meetings, business dinners, industry events. The resemblance was unmistakable. Yet the man before him wore torn clothes and looked nothing like the billionaire everyone knew. Trevor approached cautiously. "Excuse me." Damian turned. The moment their eyes met, panic flashed briefly across his face. Trevor recognized it instantly. "Mr. Cole?" The world seemed to stop. Damian's heart pounded violently. Several volunteers stood nearby. Clara worked only a short distance away. Nobody else appeared to hear the question. Trevor looked stunned. "It is you." Damian grabbed his arm immediately. "Not here." Trevor blinked repeatedly. "I do not understand." Damian lowered his voice. "Please, not now." Trevor stared at him in disbelief. One of the richest men in the country stood before him disguised as a homeless man. The situation felt absurd, yet the truth sat directly in front of him. Clara glanced toward them curiously. "Is everything okay?" Damian answered immediately. "Fine. just discussing something. Trevor quickly understood the situation was sensitive. He nodded. Of course. Clara returned to work. The immediate danger passed, but only barely. Later, Trevor pulled Damian aside. You need to explain this. Damian did. Not every detail, but enough. Trevor listened with growing amazement. When the story ended, he shook his head slowly. This might be the strangest thing I have ever heard. Damian laughed tiredly. You are not wrong. Trevor became serious. How much longer can you hide this? Damian had no answer. That silence spoke for itself. As evening approached, the fundraiser concluded successfully. Families returned home. Volunteers packed equipment. The neighborhood celebrated a productive day. Yet Trevor left carrying knowledge that could change everything. And several yards away, Vanessa noticed something strange. She saw the way Trevor reacted around Damian. She saw the respect in his posture. She saw confusion followed by recognition. Most importantly, she saw Damian's nervous response. For the first time, genuine suspicion entered her mind. As darkness settled over Lagos and the final guests departed, Vanessa watched Damian walk beside Clara. Her instincts screamed that something was wrong. Something hidden. Something important. And she quietly decided she would uncover the truth no matter what it cost. Vanessa could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. For days, the image replayed inside her mind. The businessman at the fundraiser had recognized Damian instantly. More importantly, he had reacted with obvious respect. That single moment contradicted everything she believed about him. Homeless men were not greeted that way. Homeless men did not make successful executives look nervous. The mystery consumed her thoughts. Meanwhile, Damian felt pressure building from every direction. Musa wanted him to return. Business obligations continued piling up. Trevor now knew the truth. And every day spent with Clara made the secret heavier. The experiment that once felt necessary was becoming dangerous. One afternoon, the food stall bustled with activity. Workers lined up for lunch. Street vendors crowded around plastic tables. Clara moved gracefully between customers while Mama Grace prepared fresh food behind the counter. For a little while, everything felt normal. Then Vanessa approached Damian unexpectedly. Her expression was unusually calm. We need to talk. Damian immediately became cautious. About what? Just a conversation. Alone. Clara noticed the tension. Everything okay? Vanessa smiled. Perfectly. Damian followed her several yards away from the stall. The moment they stood alone, her expression changed. Who are you? Damian stared at her. What? Stop pretending. Her voice remained low. I saw what happened at the fundraiser. Damian's heart skipped. Vanessa continued. That businessman knew you. Not like a friend, like someone important. Damian remained silent. The silence encouraged her. Who are you really? He forced a small smile. You are imagining things. No, I am not. Her eyes narrowed, and I am going to find out. She walked away before he could respond. Damian watched her leave with growing concern. For the first time, he realized exposure might come from somewhere other than himself. That evening, Vanessa began investigating seriously. She visited nearby neighborhoods. She questioned people who occasionally interacted with Damian. She searched social media profiles belonging to local business figures. Nothing produced clear answers. Yet every failed attempt strengthened her belief that a secret existed. People usually left evidence behind. Damian seemed determined not to. Several days later, another complication emerged. Trevor contacted Damian. They met privately inside a quiet coffee shop far from the neighborhood. The contrast between the location and Damian's appearance drew confused stares from customers. Trevor leaned forward immediately. This cannot continue. Damian sighed. Everyone keeps saying that, because everyone is right. Trevor lowered his voice. Investors are asking questions. Journalists are asking questions. Some people think you are seriously ill. Others believe you retired. Damian rubbed his forehead. I know. Trevor studied him carefully. Then tell her. Damian looked toward the window. The answer sounded simple. Living it felt impossible. What if she never forgives me? Trevor considered the question. Then you accept the consequences. But at least she learns the truth from you. The words echoed long after their meeting ended. Back at the food stall, Clara noticed Damian becoming increasingly distracted. One evening after closing, she finally confronted him. "What is happening?" Damian looked confused. "What do you mean? You keep disappearing. You seem worried all the time." Clara stepped closer. "And every time I ask, you avoid the answer." Damian felt guilt tightening around his chest. Clara deserved honesty, yet fear still controlled him. "There are things I need to handle." "What things?" He could not answer. Clara looked disappointed. "I trust you, Daniel, but trust works both ways." Her words lingered painfully between them. She walked home shortly afterward, leaving Damian alone with his thoughts. Across town, Vanessa stumbled onto her first real clue. While scrolling through online business articles, she noticed a photograph accompanying a corporate event story. Several executives stood together during a charity gala. One face immediately caught her attention, not because it was clear, because it looked strangely familiar. She enlarged the image repeatedly. The man wore an expensive suit. His beard was trimmed. His hair looked different, yet something about his eyes felt unmistakable. Vanessa's pulse quickened. No. Impossible. She continued searching. Article after article appeared. Company announcements, industry conferences, award ceremonies. The same man appeared repeatedly. His name sat beneath every photograph. Damian Cole, one of the country's most successful entrepreneurs. Vanessa stared at the screen in disbelief. The resemblance seemed unreal, yet the more photographs she found, the more convinced she became. Could Daniel actually be Damian Cole? The idea sounded absurd, completely ridiculous, yet every instinct told her otherwise. The following morning, she carried printed photographs inside her bag. Her hands trembled with anticipation. If she was right, everything would change. If she was wrong, she would look foolish. Either way, she intended to learn the truth. That afternoon, Damian arrived at the stall as usual. Clara smiled warmly, despite lingering concerns. Vanessa watched carefully from behind the counter. Every movement, every expression, every reaction. Finally, she approached him. "I found something interesting." Damian felt immediate alarm. Vanessa pulled out a photograph and placed it on the table. His blood turned cold. It was one of the corporate images. Damian Cole smiled confidently beside government officials and business leaders. Clara looked down curiously. Vanessa folded her arms. "Tell me something." Damian forced himself to remain calm. "What? Does this man look familiar?" Silence settled heavily over the table. Clara glanced between the photograph and Damian. At first she saw nothing unusual. Then she looked again. And again. Her smile slowly disappeared. The eyes, the shape of the face, the posture. Small similarities began emerging. Clara looked confused. Vanessa watched Damian carefully. "Well?" Damian's mind raced. He had prepared for many possibilities. Somehow this moment still caught him unprepared. "I do not know him." Vanessa laughed sharply. "Liar." Several nearby customers turned toward them. Clara felt tension rising instantly. Vanessa continued, "Tell her the truth." Damian remained silent. "Tell her who you really are." Clara looked from one face to the other. "What is happening?" Nobody answered immediately. The atmosphere around the stall changed completely. Conversation slowed, curiosity spread among nearby customers. Even Mama Grace sensed something serious unfolding. Vanessa slammed another photograph onto the table. Then another, then another. Every image featured Damian Cole. Every image strengthened the resemblance. Clara stared silently. Her heart began pounding. "Daniel?" Damian looked at her. The pain in her voice nearly broke him. "Tell me she is wrong." He opened his mouth. No words emerged. The silence answered everything. Clara stepped backward slowly. Confusion flooded her face, then shock, then hurt, deep hurt. Tears gathered in her eyes. "Who are you?" Damian felt as though the ground beneath him had disappeared. Months of lies, months of secrets, months of fear. Everything had finally reached this moment. Around them, the entire stall fell silent. Customers watched openly. Vanessa stared with vindication. Mama Grace looked stunned. Clara waited for an answer. Damian realized there was nowhere left to hide, nowhere left to run. As a warm wind moved through the crowded street and distant traffic echoed across Lagos, he finally understood that the truth he feared for so long was about to change every life around him forever. The silence felt unbearable. Traffic continued moving through the streets. Customers remained frozen around the food stall. Somewhere nearby, a radio played softly. Yet for Clara, the world seemed to stop completely. She stared at Damian while tears filled her eyes. Every question she had ignored suddenly returned. The educated speech, the refined manners, the unexplained absences, the secrets. All of it now pointed toward one impossible truth. Damian looked at her with pain written across his face. "Clara, do not," her voice trembled. "Just answer me. Are you Damian Cole?" Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Finally, Damian lowered his head. "Yes." The single word hit like thunder. Gasps spread through the crowd. Mama Grace covered her mouth in disbelief. Vanessa stood motionless, shocked that her theory had actually been correct. Clara simply stared. The man she loved, the man she believed was homeless, the man she defended against ridicule. He was one of the richest men in the country. The revelation felt impossible to process. How long? Damian swallowed hard. From the beginning, Clara's heart shattered. From the beginning. Every memory instantly changed. Every conversation felt different. Every moment carried a shadow she never noticed. "You lied to me." Damian stepped forward. "Clara, please listen." "No." Her voice cracked. "You lied every single day." Tears rolled down her cheeks. Customers quietly drifted away. Nobody wanted to witness such private pain. Yet nobody could look away either. "I never wanted to hurt you." Clara laughed bitterly. "Really? Because this hurts. A lot." Damian felt every word like a knife. Vanessa folded her arms. "I knew something was wrong." Mama Grace immediately turned toward her. Not now. For once, Vanessa remained silent. Even she understood the damage unfolding before them. Clara looked directly at Damian. Why? The question carried everything. Why pretend? Why deceive? Why manipulate? Damian struggled to find the right words. "Because I stopped trusting people." Clara stared at him. He continued. "Women wanted my money, my status, my name. Nobody seemed interested in who I actually was. So I created this disguise. I wanted to know whether genuine love still existed." Clara listened quietly. Every explanation sounded reasonable. None of it erased the hurt. "So you tested me?" Damian's silence answered again. Clara shook her head. "I was an experiment." "No, never." Damian stepped closer. "It started that way. But everything changed when I met you." Clara looked away. The pain in her eyes terrified him. He had imagined many possible outcomes. None felt as devastating as this. "I love you." Clara wiped away tears. "And how am I supposed to know that is true?" The question left him speechless, because for the first time he understood exactly what she felt. Trust, once broken, became difficult to rebuild. Without another word, Clara walked away. Damian instinctively moved after her. Mama Grace stopped him. "Let her go." He froze. The older woman looked heartbroken herself. She cared about Damian, yet she cared about her daughter more. "Give her time." Damian watched Clara disappear into the crowd. Helplessness flooded his chest. For months he had feared this moment. Now it had arrived, and it felt even worse than he imagined. That night, Clara locked herself inside her room. The city lights beyond her window blurred through tears. Every emotion collided inside her heart. Anger, confusion, sadness, love, betrayal. The worst part was that she still loved him, even after everything. Perhaps especially after everything. Because the man she loved still existed beneath the lies, yet the deception remained impossible to ignore. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Mama Grace entered quietly. Clara immediately wiped her face. Her mother sat beside her. "You do not have to hide your tears from me." Clara laughed sadly. "I feel stupid." "Why?" "Because everyone else saw the truth before I did." Mama Grace shook her head. "No, you saw something more important." Clara looked toward her. "What?" "His heart." The words lingered between them. Clara stared at the floor. He still lied. Yes, he did. Mama Grace sighed softly. But ask yourself something. Did he treat you badly? No. Did he use you? No. Did he stop loving you? Clara could not answer. Deep down, she knew the answer. Across the city, Damian sat alone inside his penthouse for the first time in months. The luxurious apartment felt colder than ever. Marble floors, expensive furniture, spectacular views, none of it mattered. He would gladly trade everything for one more conversation with Clara. Musa entered carrying coffee. The older man immediately understood. She knows. Damian nodded. And? She left. Musa sat quietly. Sometimes truth hurts before it heals. Damian stared through the glass walls overlooking Lagos. What if it never heals? Musa offered no immediate answer. Some questions had to be faced alone. During the following week, Clara refused all contact. She ignored calls. She ignored messages. She avoided places where Damian might appear. The distance nearly destroyed him. Yet he respected her decision. She deserved space. Meanwhile, the story exploded publicly. Journalists discovered fragments of the truth. Headlines spread rapidly. Billionaire lives as homeless man. Business tycoon conducts secret social experiment. Television stations debated his actions. Social media erupted with opinions. Some people admired him, others criticized him. Everyone had something to say. Clara hated every headline, not because of the attention, because strangers discussed something deeply personal. One afternoon, while helping her mother at the stall, a luxury vehicle stopped nearby. Several reporters immediately emerged. Cameras flashed. Questions flew through the air. Clara froze. How do you feel about Damian Cole's deception? Did you know his real identity? Are wedding plans still happening? Mama Grace stepped forward protectively. Leave her alone. The reporters persisted. Finally, security personnel arrived and forced them away. The experience left Clara shaken. For the first time, she understood the reality of Damian's world. Privacy barely existed. Peace rarely lasted. Every personal moment risked becoming public entertainment. Later that evening, Vanessa found Clara sitting alone outside the apartment building. The sisters remained quiet for several minutes. Finally, Vanessa spoke. I was wrong. Clara looked surprised. About what? About him. Clara waited. Vanessa sighed. I thought money made people better. Then I met rich men. Most were selfish. I thought poor people had nothing to offer. Then I met Damian. The admission seemed difficult for her. He really loves you. Clara looked away. I know. Vanessa nodded slowly. Then the question becomes simple. Clara frowned. How? Vanessa gave a small smile. Not whether he lied, he did. The question is whether what came after the lie was real. Those words followed Clara long into the night. Because despite everything, she already knew the answer. The love was real. The kindness was real. The laughter was real. The problem was trust. And trust remained broken. Several days later, Damian received an unexpected message. It came from Clara. Just 6 words. We need to talk tomorrow evening. Damian stared at the screen. His pulse quickened instantly. Hope and fear collided inside his chest. Tomorrow would decide everything. As darkness settled across Lagos and city lights reflected against the ocean, 2 hearts prepared for a conversation that would either heal their future or end it forever. The message changed everything. For an entire week, Damian had lived inside uncertainty. Every unanswered call deepened his fear. Every ignored message increased his regret. Yet now Clara wanted to talk. The opportunity filled him with hope. It also filled him with dread, because some conversations changed lives forever. The following evening arrived slowly. Dark clouds drifted above Lagos. The humid air carried the scent of approaching rain. Traffic lights reflected against wet pavement as commuters rushed home. Damian stood near the waterfront where Clara had asked to meet him, the same place where they once shared quiet conversations beneath the setting sun, the same place where everything felt simple. Nothing felt simple anymore. He checked his watch repeatedly. Minutes felt like hours. Then he saw her. Clara walked toward him wearing a simple blue dress. The ocean breeze moved gently through her hair. For a moment, Damian forgot how to breathe. She looked exactly the same, yet everything between them had changed. Clara stopped several feet away. Neither spoke immediately. The silence carried weeks of pain, weeks of questions, weeks of longing. Finally, Damian broke it. "Thank you for coming." Clara nodded. Her expression remained calm, but sadness lingered in her eyes. "You wanted time. I gave you time." She looked toward the water. "I needed it." Damian understood. They began walking slowly along the waterfront. Waves rolled against the shore, boats drifted in the distance. Around them, the city continued moving forward, yet for these two people, the moment felt suspended in time. Clara spoke first. "Do you know what hurt the most?" Damian looked at her. "Not that you were rich." He listened carefully. "Not that you had money, not that you owned companies, not even that you lied." Damian frowned slightly. "Then what?" Clara stopped walking. "That you never trusted me enough to tell me the truth." The words landed heavily. "Because they were true." Damian lowered his eyes. "I was afraid." Clara nodded. "I know." He looked surprised. "I understand why you did it." Her voice softened. "More than you think." Damian felt a flicker of hope. Then Clara continued, "But understanding something does not erase the pain." He had no argument, no defense, no excuse, only regret. "I am sorry." Clara looked directly into his eyes. "Are you?" "Yes. More than you can imagine." The sincerity in his voice felt undeniable. Clara saw it immediately. The silence that followed felt different, less hostile, less broken, more honest. Damian took a deep breath. "There is something you need to know." Clara waited. "Everything I told you about my feelings was real. Every moment, every conversation, every smile, every laugh, every dream. None of that was fake." Clara felt emotion rising inside her chest. Damian continued, "I did not expect to fall in love. I did not plan it. I certainly did not deserve it. But it happened." He looked away briefly. "And when it did, I should have told you the truth." Clara listened quietly. Her heart wanted to believe him. The problem was that she already did. That was what made everything so difficult. They continued walking. Eventually, they found an empty bench overlooking the water. The city lights reflected across gentle waves. For several minutes, neither spoke. Then Clara asked a question she had been carrying for days. "If Vanessa never discovered the truth, would you have told me?" Damian closed his eyes briefly. The answer mattered. He understood that. "Yes." Clara waited. "When?" "Soon." She raised an eyebrow. "That is not an answer." Damian laughed weakly. "Fair." He became serious again. "I was terrified." Clara nodded slowly. "I know." Another silence followed, yet this one felt less painful, more reflective, more human. Then Clara surprised him. "Tell me something, anything, about your real life." Damian blinked. "What?" "No lies, no disguises, no secrets, just truth." For the first time since their relationship began, Damian spoke openly. He told her about building businesses from almost nothing. He told her about sleepless nights, risky investments, crushing failures, public pressure, media attention, loneliness, more loneliness than anyone ever imagined. Clara listened carefully. What surprised her most was not the success. It was the isolation. The wealth she once imagined as freedom often sounded like a prison. People always wanted something: money, influence, access, opportunities. Very few simply wanted Damian. By the time he finished speaking, Clara understood him better than ever before. Ironically, the truth was bringing them closer. Meanwhile, several miles away, another story unfolded. Vanessa sat inside their apartment scrolling through online articles. One headline caught her attention immediately. "Damian Cole announces public charity initiative." Curious, she opened the article. Her eyes widened. According to the report, Damian planned to invest millions into housing programs, education initiatives, and small business support projects throughout struggling neighborhoods, including theirs. Vanessa stared at the screen. The announcement surprised her. Not because of the money, because she realized something important. Damian could have disappeared after being exposed. He could have returned to his luxury life and forgotten everyone. Instead, he was giving back. The realization challenged everything she once believed. Back at the waterfront, Clara finally asked the question Damian feared most. Can trust come back? He looked at her carefully. I do not know. The honesty surprised her. Damian continued, but if you give me the chance, I will spend the rest of my life earning it. Tears gathered in Clara's eyes. She believed him. The problem was that trust did not return overnight. It returned slowly, through actions, through consistency, through time. She stood from the bench. Damian immediately felt panic rising. Clara. She turned toward him. I still love you. The words stole his breath. Clara wiped away a tear. I wish I did not. But I do. Hope surged through him. Then she added another sentence, and that scares me. Damian understood completely. Love had survived. Trust remained wounded. The journey was not over, yet for the first time since the truth emerged, a path forward existed. Clara stepped closer. We cannot go back. Damian nodded. I know. Too much happened. He nodded again. Then she reached for his hand. Not because everything was fixed, not because the pain vanished, but because she was willing to try. The simple gesture nearly overwhelmed him. Damian squeezed her hand gently. Thank you, Clara managed a small smile. Do not waste the opportunity. They stood together, watching waves crash softly against the shore. The future remained uncertain, yet hope had returned. Neither noticed the luxury vehicle parked several hundred yards away. Inside sat a well-dressed older man, studying them carefully. He had watched the entire meeting. The expression on his face revealed concern rather than curiosity. As the vehicle slowly pulled away into the Lagos night, the man picked up a phone and made a call. Sir, it is worse than we thought. A pause followed. Yes, she is definitely the woman. The call ended, and far away, in another city, someone powerful received the news with growing interest. Someone whose arrival would soon test Clara and Damian in ways neither could possibly imagine. For the first time since the truth exploded into the open, hope returned. Clara had not fully forgiven Damian. Trust remained fragile. Pain still lingered beneath the surface. Yet she had chosen to stay. She had chosen to try. For Damian, that decision felt like a second chance he never deserved. During the following weeks, life slowly settled into a new rhythm. Damian no longer wore torn clothing. He no longer slept beneath abandoned roofs. The disguise had ended. The secret was gone. Yet surprisingly, some things remained unchanged. Every morning, Clara still helped her mother at the food stall. Mama Grace still woke before sunrise. The neighborhood still buzzed with energy and noise. What changed was the attention. Everywhere they went, people recognized Damian. Some approached for photographs. Others requested favors. Many simply stared. Clara quickly discovered that dating a public figure carried challenges she never imagined. One afternoon, while helping customers, two women approached the stall. They barely glanced at the food. Their eyes remained fixed on Damian. Is that really him? The billionaire? Clara pretended not to notice. The women immediately began taking pictures. Damian remained polite. Yet Clara saw the exhaustion behind his smile. Later, after the women left, she shook her head. Does that happen all the time? Damian laughed softly. You have no idea. She finally understood what he meant when describing loneliness. Fame attracted attention. It rarely created peace. Meanwhile, Vanessa experienced a transformation nobody expected. Ever since learning the truth, she found herself questioning many beliefs she carried for years. Money still mattered to her. She could not pretend otherwise. Poverty had hurt her too deeply. But for the first time, she recognized that wealth alone revealed very little about character. One evening, she sat beside Damian outside the apartment building. The conversation felt awkward initially. Eventually, she sighed. I owe you an apology. Damian looked surprised. For what? Vanessa laughed bitterly. Where should I begin? Both smiled slightly. She became serious. I judged you before I knew anything about you. Damian nodded. Most people did. That does not make it right. The honesty impressed him. Vanessa looked away briefly. I spent years believing money solved everything. Maybe I wanted to believe it because we never had enough. Damian understood better than most. Scarcity changed people. Fear changed people. Survival changed people. Yet growth required recognizing those wounds. Vanessa was finally doing exactly that. Unfortunately, while relationships improved at home, trouble was approaching elsewhere. The mysterious phone call made after Clara and Damian's waterfront meeting had not been forgotten. The powerful individual receiving that information had been watching carefully, and now he was coming to Lagos. His name was Leonard Cole, Damian's grandfather. Leonard built the family empire decades earlier. He transformed a small company into a financial powerhouse. Business magazines called him brilliant. Competitors called him ruthless. Employees respected him. Some feared him. Throughout his life, Leonard believed one principle above all others. Every major decision should strengthen the family legacy. Love rarely entered his calculations. 2 days after arriving in Lagos, Leonard summoned Damian to a private meeting. The invitation felt more like an order. Damian entered the luxury hotel suite, already anticipating conflict. His grandfather stood beside a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. Age had touched his appearance, but not his presence. He still commanded attention effortlessly. Damian, grandfather. Leonard turned slowly. So it is true. Damian frowned. What is true? You actually fell in love with her. Damian immediately understood. Clara. Leonard shook his head. Extraordinary. Damian crossed his arms. Why am I here? Leonard walked toward a nearby chair. Sit. Damian remained standing. Leonard sighed. Very well, then listen carefully. The older man's voice carried authority developed over decades. You have responsibilities. To the company, to investors, to the family. Damian's expression hardened. I know. Do you? Leonard raised an eyebrow. Because disappearing for months suggests otherwise. Damian said nothing. Leonard continued, and now there is this woman. Damian immediately became protective. Her name is Clara. Leonard ignored the correction. She is creating complications. Anger stirred inside Damian. Complications? Leonard nodded calmly. Public perception matters. Business relationships matter. Strategic partnerships matter. Damian stared at him in disbelief. You sound like you are discussing a merger. Leonard's silence proved the point. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Damian laughed. Not because anything was funny, because the situation felt absurd. You have not even met her. Leonard looked unconcerned. I do not need to. The answer infuriated him. By the time the meeting ended, tension filled every corner of the room. Damian left knowing one thing clearly. His grandfather intended to interfere. The realization disturbed him deeply. Several days later, Leonard decided to see Clara for himself. Without informing Damian, without requesting permission. Clara was helping customers at the stall when a luxury vehicle stopped nearby. The entire neighborhood noticed immediately. A well-dressed elderly man stepped out accompanied by security personnel. People whispered instantly. Clara looked confused. Leonard approached calmly. Miss Benson? Yes. He offered a polite smile. May we speak privately? Clara hesitated. Something about him felt intimidating. Yet curiosity won. A few minutes later, they sat at a nearby outdoor cafe. Leonard studied her carefully. Clara remained polite despite growing discomfort. Finally, he spoke. My grandson cares deeply about you. Clara nodded. I care about him too. Leonard folded his hands. Then allow me to be direct. Clara immediately sensed trouble. My grandson lives in a very different world. She remained silent. Leonard continued, extraordinary pressure, extraordinary expectations, extraordinary responsibilities. Clara understood the implication. You think I do not belong there? Leonard appreciated her intelligence. I think the situation deserves careful consideration. Clara looked directly into his eyes. Because I am poor. Leonard chose his words carefully. Because reality matters. Clara sat back quietly. The conversation revealed everything. He did not see her as a person. He saw her as a problem, a risk, an obstacle. When the meeting finally ended, Clara returned home carrying emotions she struggled to understand. Anger, embarrassment, doubt. For the first time since reconciling with Damian, uncertainty returned. That evening, Damian arrived expecting a normal visit. Instead, he found Clara unusually distant. What happened? Clara looked at him quietly. Your grandfather visited me today. Damian froze, the blood drained from his face. He did what? The answer confirmed her suspicions immediately. You did not know? No. Damian's jaw tightened. Not at all. Clara explained the conversation. Every word increased his anger. By the time she finished, fury burned in his eyes. He had tolerated criticism directed toward himself. He would not tolerate attacks against Clara. Yet beneath the anger, another feeling emerged. Fear. Because if Leonard had taken this first step, more would certainly follow. As rain clouds gathered above Lagos and distant thunder echoed across the city, Damian realized a new battle was beginning. One that money could not solve. One that influence could not control. One that would force him to choose between family expectations and the woman he loved. The storm arrived shortly after midnight. Heavy rain battered rooftops across Lagos. Thunder rolled through the darkness. Lightning illuminated crowded streets for brief moments before vanishing again. Inside his penthouse, Damian stood near the glass windows, watching the city below. Sleep refused to come. His grandfather's actions changed everything. Leonard had crossed a line. Worse, Clara was paying the price. Across town, Clara lay awake staring at her ceiling. Rain tapped steadily against the window. Leonard's words replayed endlessly inside her mind. He never insulted her directly. He never raised his voice. Yet every sentence carried the same message. She did not belong. The realization hurt more than she wanted to admit. By morning, the storm had passed. The city emerged beneath clear skies. Vendors reopened businesses. Commuters returned to work. Life continued. Yet beneath the ordinary routine, tension quietly intensified. Damian arrived at the food stall earlier than usual. Clara noticed immediately. So did Mama Grace. He looked exhausted. Have you slept? Clara asked. Not much, she understood. Neither had she. Damian glanced toward Mama Grace. May I borrow Clara for a little while? Mama Grace smiled knowingly. Go. We will survive without you. Clara followed Damian toward the waterfront. The moment they stood alone, he spoke. I am sorry. Clara looked surprised. For what? My grandfather. None of that should have happened. Clara nodded slowly. I know. Damian ran a hand through his hair. I already spoke to him. That caught her attention. You did? He laughed bitterly. It was not a pleasant conversation. Clara could imagine. What did he say? Damian looked toward the ocean. Exactly what you think he said. Silence followed. Then Clara asked the question bothering her most. Does he represent how your family feels? Damian answered immediately. No. Clara studied his face. He meant it. Yet uncertainty remained. The issue was bigger than one difficult grandfather. It was about worlds. Different backgrounds, different experiences, different expectations. Leonard simply forced those differences into the open. Meanwhile, Leonard Cole remained far from finished. Inside his luxury hotel suite, he reviewed reports prepared by private investigators. Financial records, business analyses, personal histories. Pages covered the table before him. One report focused entirely on Clara Benson and her family. Leonard read carefully. His expression revealed little. A soft knock interrupted him. Enter. A senior advisor stepped inside. Sir, are you reconsidering your position? Leonard looked up. No. The advisor hesitated. Damian seemed serious about her. Leonard leaned back thoughtfully. That is precisely why this matters. The advisor said nothing further. Arguing rarely changed Leonard's mind. Later that afternoon, another unexpected problem emerged. News outlets discovered Leonard's presence in Lagos. Journalists immediately connected the visit to Damian's highly public relationship. Speculation exploded across television and social media. Headlines appeared everywhere. Billionaire family conflict brewing. Powerful business dynasty divided over romance. Family sources concerned about future. Clara saw one article while scrolling through her phone. Her stomach tightened. She hated becoming a public topic. She hated strangers discussing her life. Most of all, she hated how easily outsiders reduced everything to money. By evening, reporters gathered near the food stall again. Cameras appeared. Questions followed. Some journalists remained respectful. Others crossed boundaries. One reporter finally asked a question that changed the mood completely. "Miss Benson, do you think you are suitable for the Cole family?" Silence fell instantly. Clara stared at the reporter. The question felt cruel, yet it reflected exactly how many people viewed the situation. Before she could answer, another voice interrupted. "She is more suitable than most of us." Everyone turned. Damian had arrived. The reporters immediately redirected their attention toward him. Cameras flashed repeatedly. Damian stepped beside Clara. His expression remained calm, but anger simmered beneath the surface. The reporter repeated the question. Damian answered without hesitation. "Clara possesses integrity, compassion, strength, character. Those qualities matter more than wealth." The statement spread online within hours. Millions watched the clip. Public reaction shifted dramatically. Many people admired his defense. Others criticized it. The debate grew louder, yet Clara noticed something more important. Damian never hesitated, not even for a second. That evening, Vanessa surprised everyone again. While helping clean the stall, she approached Clara quietly. "You know something?" Clara looked up. "What?" "If this happened 6 months ago, I would have agreed with Leonard." Clara raised an eyebrow. Vanessa laughed softly. "I know. Terrible, right?" Both smiled briefly. Vanessa became serious. "But now?" She looked toward the street where Damian was speaking with several customers. "Now I think he is wrong." Clara remained silent. Vanessa continued, "Wealth gives people options. It does not give them values." The observation impressed Clara. Her sister had changed more than anyone realized. The following day brought the confrontation everyone knew was coming. Damian requested a private meeting with Leonard. They met inside the hotel suite once again. This time, neither man intended to compromise. Leonard stood beside the window. Damian remained near the doorway. "You need to stop." Leonard turned slowly. "Stop what?" "Harassing Clara." Leonard sighed. Dramatic as always. Damian's patience disappeared. "She has done nothing wrong." Leonard folded his hands. "That depends on perspective." Damian stared at him in disbelief. "There it is. The problem. You keep treating people like business transactions." Leonard's expression hardened. "And you keep ignoring reality." The argument intensified quickly. Years of unresolved tension surfaced. Expectations, responsibilities, family pressure, personal freedom. Everything collided at once. Finally, Leonard delivered an ultimatum. "If you continue down this path, consequences will follow." Damian looked at him steadily. "Then let them follow." The answer shocked even Leonard. Silence filled the room. For the first time in years, Damian refused to bend, refused to negotiate, refused to seek approval. He turned and walked away. Leonard watched him leave. Something unexpected appeared in the older man's eyes, not anger, concern, genuine concern, because for the first time, he realized Damian might actually choose love over legacy. Days later, the city prepared for a major charity event sponsored by Damian's foundation. Community leaders would attend, business executives would attend, media organizations would attend. Most importantly, Clara would attend as Damian's guest. The event represented more than a fundraiser. It represented a public statement, a declaration, a choice. On the evening of the event, Clara stood before a mirror adjusting an elegant dress. The reflection staring back at her felt unfamiliar. She remembered serving food beneath a faded umbrella. She remembered struggling to pay bills. She remembered meeting a man she believed had nothing. Life had changed so dramatically. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Damian waited outside. When Clara opened the door, he simply stared. She smiled nervously. "Is it too much?" Damian shook his head slowly. "Not enough words exist." Her cheeks warmed instantly. Together they left for the event. Neither noticed a luxury vehicle parked across the street. Inside sat Leonard, watching, waiting. As city lights shimmered against the Lagos skyline and hundreds of influential guests gathered inside the grand ballroom ahead, fate prepared one final test. A test that would determine whether love truly possessed the strength to overcome pride, fear, status, and everything standing in its way. The grand ballroom shimmered beneath crystal chandeliers. Elegant guests filled the massive space. Soft music floated through the air. Waiters moved gracefully between tables, carrying drinks and appetizers. Journalists occupied designated areas near the stage. Business leaders exchanged greetings. Politicians discussed projects. The event represented influence, wealth, and power gathered beneath one roof. Yet for Damian, only one person mattered: Clara. She stood beside him wearing quiet confidence. Her elegance came naturally. She did not need expensive jewelry or designer labels to command attention. People noticed her because of who she was, not because of what she owned. As they entered together, conversations slowed noticeably. Hundreds of eyes followed them. Some guests smiled warmly, others whispered behind raised glasses. Clara felt nervous. Damian immediately sensed it. He leaned closer. "You okay?" Clara nodded. "Just not used to this." Damian smiled softly. "Neither am I sometimes." The answer made her laugh. The tension eased slightly. Across the room, Leonard watched silently. His expression remained unreadable. Throughout the evening, he observed every interaction carefully. He watched how Clara treated waiters with the same respect she showed executives. He watched her listen attentively when community leaders spoke. He watched her thank volunteers individually. Most importantly, he watched how people responded to her. Not with pity, not with curiosity, with genuine admiration. The observations unsettled him, because they contradicted many assumptions he had carried for decades. The event officially began. Applause filled the ballroom as speakers discussed community programs and charitable initiatives. Several families shared stories about housing assistance. Students described educational opportunities. Small business owners spoke about receiving support during difficult times. Clara listened carefully. She recognized many struggles being described. Some sounded painfully familiar. At one point, a local mother stepped onto the stage, holding back tears. She explained how a housing grant prevented her family from becoming homeless. Her voice trembled with emotion. The audience applauded warmly. Clara felt tears gathering in her eyes. Damian noticed immediately. She looked toward him. "This matters." Damian nodded. "Very much." For months, people focused on his experiment. Few discussed what he learned from it. Poverty carried faces, names, stories, dreams. Those lessons had changed him permanently. Later that evening, organizers invited Damian to deliver closing remarks. The room quieted as he approached the stage. Cameras focused instantly. Journalists prepared notes. Guests turned their attention forward. Damian stood before hundreds of people. Yet his eyes immediately found Clara. She sat near the front beside Mama Grace and Vanessa. Seeing them gave him strength. He began speaking. "Several months ago, I disappeared." Light laughter moved through the audience. Damian smiled. "Many people thought I lost my mind." More laughter followed, then his expression became serious. "Maybe I did." The room quieted. Damian continued, "I spent years building companies, creating wealth, chasing success. Somewhere along the way, I stopped understanding ordinary people." The words carried honesty. Not performance, not public relations. Truth. "I thought I understood struggle because I remembered my own. I was wrong." Silence filled the ballroom. During those months, I met people whose strength humbled me. People who survived hardships I never truly appreciated. People who kept their dignity despite enormous challenges. His eyes returned to Clara. "And one person changed my life completely." The audience immediately understood. Clara's heart began racing. Damian stepped away from the podium. The room watched curiously. Slowly, he walked toward her table. Every camera followed. Every guest leaned forward. Leonard remained perfectly still. Damian stopped directly in front of Clara. Emotion filled his voice. "When I met you, I was searching for answers." Clara's eyes glistened with tears. "Instead, I found something far more valuable." The room seemed to disappear around them. Damian continued, "You saw kindness where others saw weakness. You saw humanity where others saw status. You reminded me that character matters more than wealth." Tears rolled freely down Clara's cheeks. The audience remained silent. Captivated, Damian took a deep breath. Then he did something nobody expected. He knelt. Gasps echoed throughout the ballroom. Clara covered her mouth. Mama Grace immediately began crying. Vanessa stared in complete shock. Damian looked directly into Clara's eyes. I cannot change the mistakes I made. I cannot erase the pain I caused. But I can promise honesty, respect, partnership, every day for the rest of my life. The ballroom held its collective breath. Clara trembled visibly. Damian reached into his pocket. He revealed a small ring box. Clara Benson. His voice softened. Will you marry me? For several seconds she could not speak. Years of struggle flashed through her mind. Her father's death, the food stall, the sacrifices, the dreams abandoned. The stranger who asked for a meal, the man she learned to love. The lies, the pain, the forgiveness. Every step led here. Tears streamed down her face. Finally, she laughed through the emotion. You really enjoy dramatic surprises. The audience laughed gently. Damian smiled nervously. Is that a yes? Clara looked into his eyes, the same eyes she trusted long before knowing his name, long before knowing his wealth, long before knowing his status. Yes. The answer exploded through the ballroom. Applause thundered from every direction. Guests stood immediately. Cheers filled the room. Mama Grace cried openly. Vanessa wiped tears she pretended not to have. Damian slipped the ring onto Clara's finger. Then she pulled him into an embrace. The audience erupted again. Across the room, Leonard remained seated. Everyone else celebrated. Yet he sat quietly lost in thought. Eventually he stood. The movement drew attention from nearby guests. Slowly, he approached Clara and Damian. The ballroom gradually quieted. Tension returned instantly. Leonard stopped before them. For a moment, nobody knew what he might say. Then something unexpected happened. He looked directly at Clara. I owe you an apology. Shock spread through the room. Leonard continued. I judged you without knowing you. I measured the wrong things. Clara stared silently. Leonard's voice softened. That was my mistake. The admission seemed difficult, which made it meaningful. He turned toward Damian, then he smiled faintly. Your grandmother would have liked her. The simple statement carried enormous weight. Damian's eyes filled with emotion. For the first time in years, generations of conflict seemed to loosen. The remainder of the evening felt joyful, genuine. Families celebrated together. Friends laughed together. Hope replaced tension. As the event ended and guests gradually departed, Clara and Damian stepped outside. The night air felt cool. City lights sparkled across Lagos. Traffic moved steadily through distant streets. They stood together overlooking the skyline. Funny, Clara said softly. What? The first time we met, I gave food to a stranger. Damian smiled. Best meal of my life. Clara laughed. They fell silent. Comfortable silence. Peaceful silence, the kind built through struggle and understanding. Damian wrapped an arm around her shoulders. The future remained uncertain. Life would continue presenting challenges. Success guaranteed nothing. Love required constant effort. Trust required protection. But together, they felt ready. Their story never belonged to wealth. It never belonged to status. It never belonged to public opinion. It belonged to two people who learned that genuine character shines brightest when nobody expects anything in return. Above them, stars emerged across the night sky. Below them, the city continued breathing with life. And beside each other, they finally understood the lesson that changed everything. True wealth was never measured by money. It was measured by the people willing to stand beside you when the world offers them every reason to walk away. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, your viewing location, and share this video.